Hello dear friends, it's Carly and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for your attention and presence on the North Node through Taurus video. That was a little overwhelming, but like in the best possible way. I really enjoyed reading your comments and your questions. And that's why we're here today, is I want to spend some time kind of opening up these conversations that you all started in the comments on that video and offering back my thoughts on it. I could see more of these types of videos where it really does become a conversation between me offering the way I can see it and then you all offering your side, and let's keep the conversation going. So thank you so much for everyone who has taken in that North Node through Taurus video. And in this, I don't plan to recover the things that we talked about in that video unless there are pieces that I want to pull in as far as answering back to the comments that I've selected. I would love to make a video responding to every single comment that I get, but you know, time's a factor here and I already have more videos to make than is even physically possible. Speaking of videos to make, so I'm going to share some details about some upcoming videos as I go through answering the questions. I saw some patterns through the questions as far as lots of people kind of asking around the same kinds of things. So taking those patterns and making entire videos on them. The good news is with this North Node through Taurus transit, it is an 18-month transit. So we have until July of 2023 to work with these energies. So those videos are coming, but I also wanted to share just a little bit about my top priority at this point, which is the US Pluto return. So I have taken in a lot as far as preparing for a video on this subject, and so much of my process is emotionally processing things, and like I do a lot of my work in my sleep where I travel and I meet with, you know, guides, spiritual support and the like. And I've been with this US Pluto return material for almost a week now. And as a result, I have already split it down into 3 different videos, and there may be more because like this 18-month transit that we're talking about, this Pluto return, while it does happen, the exact date of it is next month in February of 2022, that energy lasts for a couple more years. So, and really it's the beginning of a 250-year era. So this is a big energy that is happening for the collective, happening for all of us. So that is very much where my heart and my spiritual process is very much centered around the US Pluto return. Also, in general, how that works with Uranus transiting Taurus right now, which is also a big deal kind of all by itself. The fact that they're happening at the same time, an even bigger deal for both of them. So know that those videos are coming. But like every video I offer, the energy that I bring you is really the most important part. So even though, you know, I have like 20 pages of script written and ready to go, and I recorded the first video once already and deleted it because the energy wasn't right. That's not the right energy. And I was like, see, I'm not ready, and that's okay. That's okay to sit in the unreadiness and to let yourself move through the process of like processing and you yourself getting clear on what's truly valuable, what's really going on, you know, what do you believe about universal law and universal forces? Like everything is always working out for me, well-being is dominant. This is a time to get clear. And the North Node moving through Taurus, I see it as like just a stroke of luck from the universe as a whole, that this skill that we are working on building by building up the North Node end, by building up our highest frequencies of Taurus energy, we are doing ourselves such a huge service in giving ourselves the tools and the skill set that we need to move through the rest of this US Pluto return couple of years, and Uranus and Taurus few years, like that one goes till 2026. So the evolution of this physical plane that we are living in is somewhat only just getting started. And so our ability to cope with what is really what is at the forefront of this North Node moving through Taurus chapter. These things are all so interconnected. And so we're going to continue to talk about all of them. And I love how into it you all are to leave so many awesome questions and stories and just amazing. And it seems like there's all kinds of experience levels as far as people who are brand new to astrology, people who do obviously know quite a bit about their chart to be able to phrase things the way they do. I love talking about astrology with just about anybody. So I'm glad you are all here. I am honored and humbled by your presence in this space. You all pointed out and picked out areas where you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, I spent an hour and 48 minutes and you're right, like that just wasn't long enough. There are wells left unswum that we could totally like go a whole thing into some of these points. So that is what we're here for. I'm into it. I'm totally into it. So let's dive in. So I have comments picked out from the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio transit video. And these comments were left in the first few weeks of the video. So this is the first time I'm making a response. Like I said, this is an 18-month transit and the comments continue to come in every single day. So I could definitely see another one of these comment reaction videos just on this video alone as we continue to work through these energies. So there's plenty of time, such an abundance of time left to work with these energies. And I love how into it you are. So yeah, here we go. I have these organized in what I think is going to be a fun little order. The very first comment says, how do you know your North and South nodes? I am a Gemini. So I want to show you how to pull your natal chart online for free. So you can open Google or whatever browser you like, type in free birth chart. It's also called a natal chart. Those are very interchangeable. And if you're a brand new beginner, I recommend this right here. If you click into astro.cafeastrology.com, you can enter your birth details. The name is not important. Neither really is the gender. So don't really sweat those top details too much. What it really needs is the date and the time of your birth along with the location. So if you don't know the time, you can click that unknown time button right there. And then when you click submit, it gives you like a 20-page report of all kinds of details, all the things that you would ever need to be able to get started. And if you are more advanced, I am going to show you into astro.com. So this is where I store all of my astro data. There's lots of sites out there and, you know, they all work about the same. I am just really familiar with this one. So I go to extended chart selection, and when you scroll down, there's all kinds of different options that you can completely customize. What natal chart is it that you're trying to see? I like this extended chart selection because I click 3 boxes. I click this to turn on the true node. I click this to turn on descending node, which is also the south node. And then I click this to show the aspects to all objects. And then we click here to show the chart. And when that pops up, if you aren't familiar with the icons on the chart themselves, you can scroll down to the table where it gives you a list of all of the different icons and what it means, along with where it's located. So it shows you this is the icon for the true node, which is our north node. And for this chart, which is mine, it's at 17 degrees Pisces. And the south node, also descending true node, is at 17 degrees Virgo. When we look on the chart, that's right there and right there. From that, we can see that in this chart, the north node, so we found the symbol, is inside this chunk, this piece of the pie on the natal chart wheel. So that's the north node in the 12th house. And on the other end, it'll always just be the opposite house, but you can also look here for the south node. It's in this triangle piece, and so that is the 6th house. So I have north node in the 12th house, south node in the 6th house, and now it is super easy to Google something like north node in the 12th house, and bam, you are off with a list of all of the different kinds of articles and interpretations about what that means. And that is the beginning of what can be a lifelong rabbit hole called your unique astrology chart. So to elaborate just a little bit more on this first comment, that showed us how to find the nodes in your own personal chart. To kind of tie it all together, these nodes stay in each sign for 18 months. So it's like everybody that's right around your age likely has this same nodal axis as you do. And really, when it comes to the nodes, the house that it is in is almost more important than the sign that it's in. Again, because it spends so long per sign and everybody your age has it, really the combination of sign plus house is how you get to really the heart of like your unique karmic path in this lifetime. Okay, so the second comment is transit question. If this is your nodal reversal, would you reverse everything you just said? So a couple of things. First, nodal reversal means that like right now in the sky for everybody, the north node is moving through Taurus, the south node is moving through Scorpio. A nodal reversal or a reverse nodal return is if the person were to have north node in Scorpio and south node in Taurus. So that means like the north node is transiting their south node and the south node is transiting their north node. They're not lined up the same on both ends. So if this is your nodal reversed return, however you say that, meaning you have north node in Scorpio, I wouldn't say to just reverse everything. I don't think it's quite that simple. This brings me to one of the videos that I'm in the works of making, is basically taking us through, if you have north node in Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, like taking us through all 12 of the zodiac signs and basically tying it together. Like I kind of laid it out in that first video. It's like every chapter of the nodes moving through a sign for the collective, like we are continuing that evolution. Every one of those chapters is ultimately trying to clear your path, your own personal south node, and open you up towards your own personal north node. So it is very important to be familiar with your own personal placements as you take in this information about what are we getting out of north node in Taurus. So one of these videos that's coming is taking us through and interpreting, that's wonderful. Interpreting the effect of this Taurus North Node chapter, Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node chapter on all 12 of the natal North Nodes. So I think that's going to be really fun. And in there, I will spend ample time on all the signs, but especially Taurus and Scorpio, because this is your axis that you're born for. So this is a big time, whether you're having your nodal return, meaning your North Node is in Taurus, so North Node is transiting North Node, or it's your cross nodal return, meaning your North Node's in Scorpio and the South Node is transiting your North Node. So regardless of where your natal North Node is, I will be doing an in-depth interpretation of how this North Node through Taurus transit is impacting each of us. So definitely looking forward to that. I laid that whole disclaimer at the beginning about this being an 18-month transit because I'm going to say that'll be available on the channel soon-ish. That's the best I got. So this next one says, so as a Taurus sun, Capricorn rising, Virgo moon, triple earth, I should just intensify my Venusian inclinations and overall Taurusness, question marks? LOL, it seems so far from my actual North Node in Aquarius. Sounds so good though, rattled as I've been by Uranus for a while. And I feel all of this. that's where, again, I think when I go through all of the north nodes individually, that'll hopefully help tie some pieces together, or at least bring things a little closer so that you can tie it together for yourself. Because I think, you know, obviously each nodal axis has its own experience, so I will do my best to try to bridge those gaps. For now, though, I wanted to comment from that one about, like, so I should just increase my Venusian qualities and my overall Taurusness. And ultimately, you know, the beauty of my mind is that there is no such thing as a yes or no answer to anything, even a yes or no question. And so I'm going to say basically something along those lines is something towards what you're going to want to do, right? Is that heavily qualified enough to let you know what I'm trying to say here? Which is, I think we're all going to have our own path towards what really is what we're supposed to be doing to get the most out of this transit. That's why I want to go through that north node through all the signs. And along with that, I'm also going to do one that is north node through all the houses. So like mine, for example, is Pisces in the 12th house, and Pisces rules the 12th house. They're associated with each other. So when you interpret both of those pieces, they're basically telling the same story. But let's say you had a Pisces north node in the 3rd house. That's a way different story than my story about the 12th house. So tying the pieces together, if you have a north node in a house that doesn't belong, you know, like what, now you have 2 different pieces and we got to tie those together. So I'm going to have both of those videos. Some of the other videos are, because I don't think I'm going to comment on them for any of the other comments, but some of the other videos, 2 of them are your Taurus placements. So if you have any points or planets in Taurus, what does it mean that the north node is going to be transiting over these planets and points? And then also another video around what if you have Scorpio planets and points, and what does it mean that the south node is going to be, you know, doing its work on these planets and placements. So there's 4 videos that I have in the works as far as what I want to add to this conversation. But overall, regardless of where your personal north node is, the skill set that we are practicing through this 18-month cycle is Taurus, is that skill set, those abilities of whatever our Taurus energy is ruling. And we went in depth in that first video around what is our Taurus energy and what does that mean to build that energy within ourselves. And so much of it boils down to inner peace and feeling secure, and the overall shift from that south node cleansing Scorpio, the north node building Taurus. It's a shift around what is truly valuable. And remember, not all that glitters is gold. So tuning in with your own heart to what do you feel is truly valuable, and is that what you're living on a daily basis? Are you empowered inside of yourself? Are you looking for other people to support your power? There's so much here. That's why that first video was so long. But the skill set that we are practicing is Taurus. That is the point of, like, where is the north node right now, right? Like, that's where we're building. So in a very like rough answer, I would say yes, we are building our overall Taurusness, our overall Venusian qualities, our ability to find peace and calm within ourselves. And this is again where I say, like, this north node through Taurus and building up that sense of inner calm, that is such a gift in these tumultuous times of Uranus and Taurus and Pluto return in Capricorn for the US, which again, if you're outside the US, this global economy that we live in, this global interconnected world that we live in, this US Pluto return is huge for the entire collective, not just the United States. But we'll get more into that in that video series, which should be on the channel soon-ish. So this one shifts gears a little bit and is a little bit the darker side of what Scorpio South Node can elicit. It says April 2003 is when the war started in Iraq, and on April 14th, my best friend was killed because she was a Christian. And that's when I had panic attacks and depression for the first time in my life. I was mortified, and it was one of my darkest, worst times. I hope I don't get the same energy this time. And I very much included this one on purpose because I want to honor that this is a potentially dark time, that really the ultimate experience of this transit, that south node through Scorpio, purging our deepest fears, purging our attachments to things that used to be our source of power, and now we have to relocate our source of power, hopefully inwardly, into ourselves. But this is a time where when life holds up a mirror that reflects we're disempowered, it is painful. It is extremely painful to be shown by life that you are not as powerful as what you were previously under the assumption of. And that's pretty much what this transit is. And I don't necessarily sugarcoat things, but I do try really hard to be mindful of the language that I use and the way that I choose to illustrate things. I do try to keep my story as neutral as I can to not trigger people, because there's enough of that in life, basically. But I'm glad that someone did bring this up, because it is worth going a little bit deeper into what does it look like to have a bad reaction to Scorpio and South Node. And I am not by any means singling out this person, because as I mentioned in the last video in my power struggles with my parents, that was intense and uncomfortable, and it led to the beginning of my depression. Unfortunately, fortunately, how do you even, all of that, like, yeah, like there's so much pain that can come from realizing that there is this reallocation of power to do, aka you realize that somebody else is holding your power, and that there's something of a fear that you have to face if you're going to get it back from them. And that is terrifying. It's absolutely scary. And like, to bring in the war in Iraq for just a second, I do think that it's very interesting that she mentioned that like April of 2003 was when the war in Iraq started. And you think back to why that was. I think it had a lot to do with trying to show strength rather than feeling strength. Like, that war came out of the 9/11 attack that took the fear that was already present in the US and like amplified it beyond belief. It permanently changed our culture that day. And then a couple years later, in April of 2003, the North Node moving into Taurus, the South Node into Scorpio, it's time to face that. It's time to face your fears. It's time to face who is it that you think is holding the power, and because of that, you don't have it. And what I urged in that first video is to realize that there is no enemy outside of ourselves, that like, to get your power back is an internal process of just claiming it for yourself. And obviously that's a deep process of shadow work. That's a huge introspection that's probably got layers and layers and layers and layers to work through. That's like the idea of a lifelong healing journey. So yeah, like, it's totally possible that some really negative emotions can come up with this Scorpio South Node. And I want to make sure that I honor that I'm not minimizing it for those that are feeling that way, because I'm pretty sure by the time it's over, we will all have pockets of feeling that way. And as someone who has had a lot of years in depression and anxiety, and I'm very familiar with panic attacks, I I can only speak from my experience because, again, I have to illustrate every time I go into this territory that, like, I'm not a trained psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I have a background in economics and project management. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But I do have some wickedly strong emotions, and I have spent a lifetime learning how to manage them. So I can tell my story around my experience of my emotions. And so that's what I'm going to offer you here. And that is, like, the more I get into emotion management and learning coping skills and emotional awareness and observing the emotions that move through me, the first and foremost thing is that emotions are temporary. They are temporary. They take only a minute or two to pass through us, the chemicals of them. And if they last longer than that in our being, then it's basically our thoughts that are continuing to fuel those things. And Scorpio and Taurus are fixed signs, so they can circle around something over and over and over and over and over and over a million times before they're finally ready to let it go. So yeah, when, especially on the Scorpio end, when you're circling around your own disempowerment, trying to figure out, like, how do I unravel this? You go through it a million times before, again, the answer is on the Taurus end. The answer is, like, basically opening up and waking up and realizing that, like, you are your power. Like, it's just inside of you. It just is. And that's so frustrating for somebody who's in the moment of not being able to feel it. And so that's where, you know, daily getting in touch with your body, slow things like yoga can be really powerful to just, like, kind of wake up internally. I have heard Tara Brach, though, and she is like a psychiatrist or psychologist or something, that she talks about, like, it's a very different ballgame if you have physical trauma, like waking up inside your body, like, you could be re-traumatizing yourself. So if you are a trauma survivor, I would definitely say, like, this whole North Node in Taurus likely has a different connotation for you. And it's not that I don't want to help, it's that I first have to do no harm, and I'm simply not qualified to be your trauma guru in this moment. So all I can really say is, as I've gotten better with my emotion management, it doesn't prevent depression. It doesn't prevent anxiety. It only gives you the ability to witness it while it happens. And in the witnessing of it, there's this awareness that in order for me to witness this, I am separate from this emotion. I can just be with this emotion. I can observe how it feels in my body. I can observe the thoughts that it gives me, and I can be with it, and I can see, like, what does this message have for me? And so when we feel bad, there's healing inside of ourselves that we're being invited towards. So, you know, in the last video, and this is something that as I sat with the video, it's like I did want to go a little bit deeper into, like, the answer on the Scorpio end, as far as Scorpio's superpower in the healing, the water family, is that it has the capacity to look at the wounds and to be with and experience the hard things just as much as it's there for the positive things. And I don't mean to oversimplify that. And I think in the first video I may have, because here I did want to give it a little bit more space to really how much it takes to be able to do that, the stomach that it takes to withstand painful emotion and to remain the observer inside of the pain, to realize that, like, pain is temporary. And if you observe it, if you can, like, detach from the physical experience of the pain being your entire reality. Like the other day, I dropped something on my finger and it is, like, pulsing, like, just radiating pain through my entire arm, like it's coming through my body. Oh, pain is temporary. I am observing this, and then it's like the throbbing is still there, But I'm noticing the shape of the throbbing and the rhythm of the throbbing, and it's the rhythm is slowing. The intensity is fading. And within 10 or 20 or 30 seconds of observing, the pain is gone. It's over. And that's like that. If it goes on longer than that, those are your thoughts that are like pedaling the wheels of pedaling the pedals of the bicycle. And like you're making the wheels go more because you're fueling it with your thoughts. So pain is an interesting concept. Emotions can be extremely painful, and depression and panic attacks, those are extreme emotions. And so all of this kind of works together in like incorporating shadow work as a regular part of your spiritual practice. It all kind of comes together because we're talking about being with and facing your emotions, but if you're inside of a panic attack, that is not the time to try to be with your emotions. That's the time to try to get some calm, get some grounded calm going on inside of you. So that's like the Taurus end, you know, like that heavy water energy is grounded by its sister sign, the earth energy. And that's true for all the water signs. You know, Pisces is grounded by Virgo, Cancer is grounded by Capricorn. So it is so fun, I think, to look at how do all these pieces fit together. And as this Scorpio South Node is on track, like I feel like I'm giving a weather report right now where we can see it's miles, maybe miles away. It's just, we're just starting to get the sprinkles and the wind, but it's a big storm and it's coming and it's going to pass through and it's going to take a while, right? Like this is an 18-month transit of Scorpio South Node bringing us face to face with our internalized power dynamic. How much of our power are we owning, and how much of our power are we giving away to other people? And I will say that I did see in the comment section where a couple people were like, that was like the time of my life. Oh my gosh, I started this, I got this job, I went on this, I was feeling amazing. Like, you know, bring that on, that's awesome. Like that makes me really wonder, like what is going on in Taurus and Scorpio in that person's chart? And other signs, you know, just fixed signs in general, since the nodes are squaring the other two fixed signs. So anyways, all of that to say that this is a process of what I hope comes out of my videos, in all of my videos, and this energy that I share is, I hope that this content makes it easier to be with what is. Makes it easier to understand, why am I in these hard emotions? You know, why am I putting up with this again? Why am I bothering with this human existence? There's a reason. There's a reason. And when we ground into the inner serenity that is there for us, when we learn how to tap into it, there is no end to the value that we can find and that we can harvest on this planet in this lifetime. Like learning how to tap into that internally is what will get us through this birth of the new earth that's coming this decade. Pluto return until 2024, Uranus and Taurus until 2026. And this change that we are living through, these times of change that we are living through, we came for this. We wanted this. I genuinely believe that if you are alive right now, that you intended to be here for this massive, radical transformation, that you were like, put me in, coach, I'm ready. So even if it's hard, especially when it's hard, just, I hope that this at least plants a little seed that says like, it's not for nothing. And those emotions are temporary. And if they're too intense to sit with, that it's time to touch some calm. It's time to, you know, pivot into Taurus. It's time to get out in nature. It's time to turn off our thoughts. It's time to connect with animals. It's time to connect with our five senses. Comfy clothes, yummy snacks, bubble baths, exercise, yoga, all of those things that can be extremely healing. Like, you don't necessarily think about earth energy when you think about emotions, and it is so powerful to have your earth energy dialed in if you're wanting to have any kind of a shadow work practice. If you're going to intentionally sit inside of painful things, you need to know how to come out when you're ready, so that you don't get trapped in there. Like that, I believe, is what chronic depression is. It's like you don't know how to get out. you're in there with the tough stuff. You're doing the Scorpio thing, but there's no relief. There's no break in the wall. You're just in there. I feel like I spent like 15 years of my life in Scorpio with no idea how to come out. And Taurus energy, earth energy in general, is how you come out. And it takes practice, and that is exactly what this transit is all about. Okay, so this next comment says, back in 2003, I started big school, which was first grade. Around April was the first recognition I got for being good at schoolwork. It just made sense to me. On the other hand, I had to focus more on the day-to-day living and sticking to a routine, which I didn't really like because I have always been a dreamy child and thought more abstractly. Sag rising here. I loved this. Big school just cracked me up, first of all. And that was like really, again, kind of going back to that side of things where that's a generally positive experience, where I think this transit has just as much potential to show us where we are already in our power. Like in that example where this was the first time that they got recognition for being good at school. And it's like they didn't go to school and learn how to be good at school. Like school naturally brought out the natural ability that was already there. And so it was a time of being rewarded. I saw a different comment about getting a prestigious job at that time. Like society recognizing how you're already standing in your power. That's exciting. Like, who doesn't want that? You got to know, though, I think for all of us, we're all having pockets of both. We are all experiencing the North Node in Taurus end, showing us where we're already empowered. I think we're also all going to be seeing the South Node in Scorpio end, where any remnants of your power that exist with anyone will be coming to knock on your door. So expect a little bit of both, but it's definitely not all bad. Definitely not. This next one says, I have Taurus North Node in the 12th house and Scorpio South Node in the 6th house. It is the absolute worst, LOL. 18 years ago, I was graduating high school and starting college. This is so crazy because I had dreams last night of being in high school, WTF. I didn't even know this transit was coming up. During that time, I was desperate to get out of my hometown, and yes, it had to do with feeling parental control and wanting to be free so I could be myself. After years of living all over the place, circumstances beyond my control have had me back in my hometown for the past 5 years, and I am desperate to get out again. The exact same energy. This is crazy. Thank you so much for this information. You made my life more bearable just now. As long as there is a reason for suffering, I can bear it. We'll work on practicing my peace. I love that for so many different reasons. First, this is a perfect example of where you have your node in a sign that doesn't match the house. So that's a perfect example where we're going to have the video for the North Node through the signs, video for the North Node through the houses, and hopefully that helps weave those two pieces together for you. I especially resonated with your comment because I also was brought back to my hometown 5 years ago. No shit, 5 years ago. And have been working through my own self-empowerment on so many levels these last 5 years. And I've thought it was hilarious. I already thought that it was hilarious that I almost had to move back to my hometown because otherwise it wasn't really facing my fears. Me being who I was out in the world where no one knew me felt safer, but I also couldn't do it. I couldn't be myself, quote unquote, like we won't get into all of that, until like a couple years after I moved back to my hometown. And now it's also back in this space where, yeah, I have come face to face with like all of my childhood sources of power that I had left my own power with older family members, people that I knew in childhood, teachers that, I opened a grocery store here in my hometown. So like there's a lot of people from my childhood that now I see and they shop at the grocery store. And so coming like full circle with that, I hadn't connected it to my own journey until I read your comment. So thank you so much for sharing your story there. I was a little weirded out, but in the best possible way at how similar it was. And I wonder how you resonate as far as like, I personally feel like as much as I left to get away from, you know, no shade on my hometown, but when I left, I said, I'm never coming back here, ever. And it was like a small-minded thing. It was like a I can't be who I am here. There's like just this little box that this is what you're allowed to be, and I need to go somewhere where either there isn't a box or it's a way huger box and I can make my own space in there. And I moved to Dallas, where it is a very progressive climate, very international culture. It's absolutely wonderful there. I love Dallas. But I still didn't feel safe being myself, and I never really, like, while I was there, I didn't give it a whole lot of thought until I got back. And I was like I said, a couple years after I got back to my hometown, I'm walking this path where basically it's like, ready or not, your true self is emerging. And now I'm in a setting where not only have I moved back to my hometown, but like all eyes in the community are on the grocery store. And like, yeah, so that has been very interesting to, again, like really evaluate like what is truly valuable, where does my power come from, how do I stand in my power, how do I own my power, how do I let myself do what's comfortable and natural for me, like getting in touch with those inner animal instincts, even if other people don't understand, like even if other people don't think that what I'm doing is valuable. Like in this small hometown, if people knew that like this is what I do with my time, is like make videos talking about astrology and shadow work and emotion management and all of that, those things just aren't mainstream here. And at this point in my life, I can finally say I'm okay with that. Like I almost had to come back to my hometown to heal like more the roots of those power struggle issues that I was having, where basically like I was looking outside of myself for approval. And in doing that, I was worried that they wouldn't give it. And because of that, I was holding myself back. And even when I left, I still wasn't able to like really live it out the way that I wanted. And then life brought me back here, and you know, like it's just so crazy like how these cycles play out. And I couldn't believe that, yeah, like we both got moved back to our hometown 5 years ago. And you gotta wonder, like, is that the reason? Are these where the roots of those power struggles were formed, were born, where the initial karma, like these are the people that you incarnated with initially are the ones with the karma that needs worked out. And through this last 5-year experience of living here and doing all the what I've done in that meantime, I really do feel like I have worked out karma with people in my family that needed to be resolved for me as a soul, and that I feel so much clearer and empowered in myself now that I've resolved those things and healed those wounds and basically let go of any negative emotion towards any of those people in my family that I used to, like I said, like when I left, I'm never coming back here. And there was a lot of anger behind that. And so when I left, I took that with me. I took that anger and that I'm not understood there and they're small-minded and like that attitude about my hometown, I took that with me. And it took me coming back here and being here to like really heal that and to like come to peace with, I actually chose the perfect hometown. Like this is exactly the right setting for me to be doing my soul's work. That if anything, like, yeah, I don't fit in, but I was born to create a different world. So the fact that I don't fit in just means that there's a lot of potential here for people to like wake up. And there are people here who are awake. Not very many that I've found. They seem to be somewhat undercover, like underground, because mainstream population in this area is very religious, like formally religious. So there are a few spiritual ones that I've come across that are very much underground still, but like think about the potential of what that means. And I mean, I believe that we chose our starting point on purpose. So our hometown is just as much a part of us as our parents and our birth chart as a whole. Like that culture that you chose to do your upbringing in, we chose it for a reason. And I feel like for me, these last 5 years have really helped me come to terms with why this was the perfect place for me to start my journey and to come back here for this deeper level of healing. And I can feel myself setting sail again soon, like going back to what you said of like, I'm ready to go see a different side of the world. And me too. But during this pandemic where it's been so like cut off from, you know, international travel, and travel in general is just so much less appealing to me at this point, that it's like, yeah, I mean, I've mostly been focusing into my inner world, which you can do that anywhere. Because that's the thing that like, I think I had to leave to realize that like, it wasn't necessarily my hometown that was holding me back. It was me that was holding me back. And to the person who left this comment, I'm not saying at all that like, this is the same thing that happened to you. I'm very curious if it resonates at all. But I had to like learn that lesson the hard way a few times of like, you take yourself with you wherever you go. So yeah, I think I was the one holding me back, and my own fear was holding me back. And I didn't even face that fear until I moved back to my hometown. So that was kind of perfect, because that was the most exaggerated version of that fear that there would ever be. And I faced it and I survived, and that was extremely empowering. Facing our fears is extremely empowering. This next one says, Scorpio is in my 6th house and my south node is in it as well. And I have a health issue that's been stressing me for like 5 months. So you think that this could be the thing that I have to focus on this year? And is it possible to lose my health if I stayed attached to it? So these are the kinds of questions that I personally feel really uncomfortable answering because as much as it may sound like I'm doing predictive astrology, I really don't subscribe to predictive astrology other than to pay attention to the transits and see if I recognize those themes inside my own emotional experience. So I don't like to say like, if you do this, this will happen. So like that's the only thing about that I'm not going to address. But I do want to speak to South Node in the 6th house. I do have that placement as well. My South Node is in Virgo and North Node in Pisces, like I said. So I share that 12th house North Node, 6th house South Node. And so I have studied 6th house South Node a decent amount to know that if you are prolonged in your South Node in the 6th house, poor physical health is one of the side effects of being kind of caught in that end of things. And basically, like if you're manifesting physical health issues, ultimately with a 12th house North Node, it is about surrendering to the universe, surrendering to the higher powers at B, something that's non-physical that we can't see, but we trust it. And for most people, especially if you have a 6th house South Node, that's like the whole point, is that that's difficult. And it basically boils down into like, where does health even really come from? And when we are ill, when we are diseased, it is a disallowance of ease. That's like a Bruce Lipton epigenetics type concept, which I highly recommend for anybody who is physically ill. He talks a lot about how basically your thoughts create your physical experience, that down to a cellular level, like you are impacting your cells by the way you think. And so to think about that means that, especially like we said in that first video, where Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs, so they can circle around things for a really long time before they let it go and move on. So again, physical health means you're hanging on, like physical health issues means you're hanging on to something that is unresolved in your energy field. It's festering at an emotional level. It's not being dealt with. Now in it manifesting as a physical issue, it's festering at a physical level where it's more noticeable. So ultimately, and this is again just my personal belief that you can take it or leave it based on your own resonance, my personal belief is that physical illness is a sign that there is a much deeper energetic wound that is needing our attention, and that healing a physical illness is not even the point. I mean, I'm not saying don't get treatment and don't like help yourself survive. Do that and take care of yourself. You know, you're your own keeper. But I am saying that, one, proactively tuning into our thoughts and our inner ease, allowing ease, not disallowing ease, which leads to dis-ease, that's important. And we can do it proactively. That's before the physical illness gets there. Once the physical illness gets there, you're right. It is a lot more difficult to put the physical aside and to move into a more emotional space, a more energetic space, especially with yours where, like in this example, you're talking about Scorpio, a water sign in the 6th house, which is an earth house because it's associated with Virgo. And then you have North Node in Taurus in the 12th house, which Taurus is an earth sign and the 12th house is a water sign. So you have them like reversed. And so again, letting go is probably very difficult. But there are methods out there for like healing deep emotional wounds. The one that's coming to mind, and again, I am not certified in basically anything other than project management and microeconomics. One that's coming to mind though is QHHT, which is quantum healing hypnosis technique. And it is deep hypnosis. They put you in a trance, and there's work that happens between the therapist, which is a lot guided by like an awake conscious conversation that you have with your QHHT practitioner, so that you are both very much on the same page with like what is the work that you're aiming to do during the session. But then you go into trance, so the therapist is working with like your deepest / highest self, and there are answers that your highest self can share during that trance that typically it's recorded, and then you listen to the recordings later. So it's like basically a facilitated process of you getting your own highest wisdom. So if that sounds convoluted, you know, probably I could explain it way better than that, but that's the general process. And I am, like I said, like it's coming to mind as far as like, especially if you have heavy Taurus and Scorpio energy and you feel a difficulty in letting go, or there's something that you're looping around that you just cannot get out of, hypnosis may be a really good option for you. So this next one says, so we pay after we did wrong when alive and also when we are reincarnated. Please clear this issue for me. And I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about how things carry over to create the karma that we're working on in this lifetime. And I should mention that, again, this is one of the topics where I am not a certified professional. So there are Buddhist teachers out there who have a lot more credible explanation as far as like how karma works, but I can definitely share with you what I think I know about the subject, at least what resonates with me. So first, because we're talking in this context of South Node, North Node, the South Node end is our past life karma, the North Node end is our future karma, like what we're walking towards in this lifetime. And for example, with my Virgo South Node in the 6th house, what I'm healing in this lifetime is that basically when you have that combination Virgo South Node in the 6th house, what it means is that you have a very good talent for attention to detail, but what it also means is that you take it to the extreme, to the shadow frequency of you're too good at attention to detail, meaning like you get bogged down in the details and lose track of like what was even the point of what I was doing to begin with. Perfectionism is also one of those things. So like in a past life, I know for certain that, yeah, I basically in my mind details, getting them right feels like a life and death situation. So like the example from Jan Spiller's book, Astrology of the Soul, in the Pisces North Node chapter is like, this likely was like you being a doctor or a nurse or some kind of practitioner in a past life where you literally took people's lives into your hands and you wore the responsibility of that like a ton of bricks. So like you really took it seriously, like almost too seriously. In that life, you were the doctor. Like that's how it should be. You should be taking it seriously that you have somebody's life in your hands. In this lifetime, though, I am not a doctor, and I still take it that seriously sometimes. I'll find myself kind of spinning in my Virgo 6th house south node, where I am way too wrapped up in the details, and details that don't matter. I'm losing my peace. I'm giving it away. I'm paying my peace in all of these little worries about all of these little details that, like, that's not what I'm here for. That's my karma. In a past life, I over-exaggerated the details. And now in this lifetime, I'm coming to learn how to heal that inside of myself, to balance that side of myself with this Pisces side. My North Node then is in Pisces, where, again, North Node in Pisces in the 12th house is all about surrender to universal forces, to trust in your highest self, to trust in the interconnectedness of all things, to trust that well-being is dominant and that our life on this planet has a purpose, because we're all in this together. We're all interconnected. So anything that we do is part of our purpose. All of those things send ripple effects through the collective. So that, as a Virgo South Node, I should say, back in the beginning of walking that path, was extremely scary, because the whole point of Virgo South Node is that you are controlling the details in the physical environment. And to the point where in a past life, I got myself all wound up in a tizzy about controlling details in the physical environment. And this time I'm learning to let go of that. I'm learning to let my attention to detail serve me, but don't let it run my life. Definitely don't let it leave me in a state where I'm a total perfectionist and nothing is ever good enough, and I beat up on myself. I'm not ever good enough because my finished work isn't good enough. That is that karma of beating up on myself, is the karma that I'm here to pay back. The ultimate South Node in Virgo, South Node in the 6th house, is radical self-acceptance. Radical self-acceptance of exactly where you are right now today. And again, if you go back to that past life example of this person was a doctor in a past life, they weren't accepting. Even when they did a good job, there's still a good reason to beat up on yourself and perfect it and do it better, because again, you're talking life and death. But here I am in this life still acting like that, not working on life and death situations. So that's kind of the type of healing that I'm talking about. That's my example as far as this chapter of Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node that's happening for everyone. We ground it back into, our personal North Node and South Node in our chart. So that's what I am working on in my lifetime, is South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, letting go of controlling things in the physical and learning to trust in the non-physical. That's my overarching path that I'm walking. So for example, this Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node, it's really bringing out power structures between my work process, the 6th house being daily work and the 12th house being the interconnectedness of all things. My North Node being there, my Mars being there. It just screams to me working in collective energies, not working in the physical day-to-day, whatever. So in that example, that really lays out in a past life, it's not that you messed up and were punished in a past life. Maybe it was maybe you died a horrific death and there's trauma and karma there. Maybe it's as simple as you were a really, really, really high strung doctor and you lost track of yourself. You lost track of loving yourself and being kind with yourself and having compassion for yourself. And because of that, you had a really hard time having compassion for others. But maybe you were really good at your work, but your bedside manner, not the greatest, because overall you were just really anxious and high strung. So it's not that you even did anything wrong. It's that in that past life, once you are finished with it and you reemerge into non-physical and you're at that review stage of, okay, so here's what I set out to do. Here was my plan. And then how did it go? Let's do a recap. Let's do what's that called when you do that? Retrospective. Let's do a retrospective about what went right, what went wrong, and what would I have done differently? Knowing what I know now, where can I see how I got off the track of what I had intended? It's not about punishment and repayment. This is kind of pulling from Dolores Cannon's work in her books, and speaking events that she did while she was alive, where basically Earth is a school. Earth is just a classroom, and you can think about like our different lifetimes as the different grades that we go through. And if we're here alive, that I take it to mean, and this is a lot grounded in, yes, Dolores Cannon's work and Abraham Hicks's work, like if we're alive right now, we intended to be. Like we are the creators of our reality. So if our soul manifested a vessel and came in and is having this physical experience, then there is something here that is rocks left unturned, basically, where there's work to be done, there are lessons to be learned, there are evolutionary steps to take. And if you're still here, then you're not done with the evolutionary steps that were intended for you in this lifetime. And so as far as like, you know, we did bad things in past lives and now we're back because we have to pay back the karma, that's not exactly how I look at it. I mean, you guys are all welcome to form, you know, everybody form their own individual opinion. I'm just sharing my thoughts to hopefully like get people's thoughts churning a little bit, and questioning like, what is it that you even believe? Hopefully this helps you clarify. But yeah, I think it's more like missed opportunities in past lives. Like it's more like regret. Like, for example, this is a different North Node, South Node axis, but let's say you have South Node in Capricorn and North Node in Cancer. These are the people who came like early 80s, thereabouts, 82-ish. So that's one class of them. They're older and younger at this point. But that's one class. So these people, basically what that says, South Node in Capricorn says, in past lives, you put your career and your reputation and your work out in the world, your legacy, all of that, you put that first and foremost. And that North Node in Cancer is acknowledging that you previously in past lives missed the importance of that home, emotional, nurturing foundation. And I don't know that I've talked about this in many videos, but like for me, Cancer, the fourth house, the idea of home, it is a very internal concept of like feeling safe and at home inside of ourselves. So basically, like that's another example where, you know, when you put all of your energy into your career at the expense of your family, by the end of it, when you get to the very end of the road and then you reemerge into non-physical and you look back, it's entirely possible that you could see like, wow, I way over prioritized my career. I neglected my kids. I neglected my spouse. By the end of life, I had nothing to show for myself as far as family-wise because I had given everything to my career. This time I want to go back and I want to make sure that I prioritize my family and that I let them know how special they are to me and I make them a higher priority in my life and I keep my career where it belongs in perspective with I'm working to support my family. So, you know, that's not an overarching statement to everybody. That's a Capricorn South Node and a Cancer North Node. That's like the arc that that person is here to make. And so it just really depends on what your personal nodal structure is, what that past life experience is that you're here to like work it out in this lifetime. It's a little different for all of us, and I hope that this is another place where my couple videos where I go through the North Node through all the signs, the Taurus and all the different houses, hopefully that helps you start to piece together like what maybe was the past life experience that you're here to work through in this life based on what's in your chart. Okay, so this one I'm super excited to share. I'll just read it and then I can, yeah. Okay, so it says, oh, I just felt triggered in terms of humans being animals. That's not quite right because we have the power of enlightenment and ascension. Animals don't. We may have lived like animals in survival mode after the big fall of higher wisdom. We are higher beings though. That's the whole point of our ascension journey. She says, see, I'm a Scorpio moon and I just can't let go of teaching. So funny. And so, yeah, she really loved the video. So I really wanted to talk about this, this part of it, because I like, not that I don't agree, but I see my animals, my pets, as like no lie, like my ancestors reincarnated. Like I think, you know, I personally feel very spiritually supported anyway. I feel spirit guides, angels, my ancestors most of all. And there was one day, just full transparency here. There was one day I was going pee, and I was listening to this music, and this line came on, and just as the line was sung in this song, my dog Stella came up and like put her legs like up on my knee and like reached for my arm with her paw, and the line in the song was "the front lines of your guardian angels." And her eyes looked right at me, and I knew that that's exactly who this is. These are my ancestors, these little dogs and cats that are here to share physical space with me. These are my ancestors. And if that makes me sound like a psycho, cuckoo, batshit, crazy lady, then you're probably watching the wrong channel, you know, first of all. But second, oh my gosh, like it has been profound for revolutionizing my relationship with these little creatures. You know, some of you have commented about my voice as I talk to my creatures, and imagine you're talking to your great grandfather. How would you speak to him? You know, the amount of respect and love and patience and trust and adoration and gratitude and all of that. Like, that's how I feel for my ancestors as a whole. And I feel like they are the physical representation of those ancestors, the front lines of my guardian angels. I'll link that song in the description, by the way. It's a good one. And I personally interact with them and feel grateful towards them as if they are representatives of my spiritual ancestors, of all of my lineage, all the sides of my family that have come before me that are here supporting me now. So I personally, like, you know, I kind of, I guess, like, if you're really going to put me to the wall here, I guess I stand by what I said, that humans are animals, that we are part of the animal family. That's science, you know, like we're part of that animal kingdom, I guess is the right word for it. And I also think that animals have an ascension journey. Like, I genuinely believe that, like, basically going back to Dolores Cannon's work, where she's done thousands of past life regressions and sent people into past lives where they were animals and birds and rocks and dirt and air and trees. And basically her theory, her proposition that she's putting out there from all her research, all of those decades, was basically like, we as energy go through an evolution of our soul that touches every stage. That, like, first we're the air. We know no physical bounds. We are completely just a gas. And then eventually we work our way into being some kind of an inanimate object, like a rock. And then eventually we get to be alive, and we get to on and on and on. So, like, she goes through that in her books. And I don't know how you'd ever prove something like that, but let me tell you what, I really like it from just a pure resonance standpoint. It feels really good to me in terms of just expanding and deepening, like, reincarnation and really how does that work. It's not just that we're humans. We come as lots of different things. Again, we are, giant disclaimer on top of all of this, that these are just my opinions based on the spiritual practice that I've done so far in my life. But I think animals are totally on an ascension journey. I think when I look in my dog's eyes, like, I totally believe that they've been humans before, and that they chose on purpose these little creature bodies because their soul's mission at this stage is very much intertwined with mine. I think any of us out there who have familiars, who have pets inside of our homes, like, that's basically how I see it, is that these are your spiritual support in physical form. And they are there to give you a lick on the hand when you're sad. And they're there to let you hold them and cuddle them when you need that physical contact. And they're there to purr on your lap when you need just a moment of total calm. Like, they are our spiritual support as much as anything else. And like, when I'm talking about like the interconnectedness of all things, animals and humans, like I think we're all basically the same. Like we have maybe, see, and I was gonna say like we have maybe more language and communication functions, but I don't even know that that's true, because they've proven that like dolphins and whales and stuff, they have vocab of like thousands of words. So like, and if you want to talk about like executive decision making as far as like executive functions of our human brain, again, there are so many animals out there that they have proven have very similar, if not more advanced executive functions. So I think it's a lot more non-linear in terms of reincarnation, as we come back again and again to like work out karma and do soul missions and have reasons for coming back. I personally think that sometimes a really advanced being comes back in a dog body, a little creature body, because they're there to be a familiar and support the work of a human animal. So that is how I see it. I absolutely loved your comment though, and most of all, want to just really honor what you said first thing out of the gate was like, oh, I just got triggered. Because being able to identify that as far as like being emotionally aware, to be able to name it and like put a pin on it that says like, oh, right there, I just got triggered. That is so valuable as far as this South Node through Scorpio transit, where this is a time of being shown like, you know, where do we feel disempowered? And as we feel those negative emotions rise within us, like chances are this is going to be an installment of here's where you're not fully in your power. And oh yeah, that triggering experience can be rough to live through. But again, it's one of those where if you observe and let it come and go, let it be temporary, don't keep it around by peddling it with your thoughts. Even those negative emotions, those negative moments where we get triggered, they have so much that they can teach us. Plus, I'm just really glad that I got to share that little story about my pets and how I believe that they're basically my ancestors. So that'll be our little secret. But if that helps any of you to, I mean, when you look in their little eyes, can you not just feel that it's not just a dog, it's not just a cat, it's just not. There's a soul in there that is communicating with ours, and if they're in your life, then they are part of your spiritual support. They are the front lines of your guardian angels. And last but not least, this comment says, my granddaughter was born January 18th, 2022, 12:48 a.m. at the nodal shift. I find that very interesting and wonder if it has significance. So, yeah, like a lot, I would say. The one question I would have is just based on the time zone of like where on the planet the person was born. It feels weird to call a baby a person, I realize, but technically I think it is one. But anyways, so yeah, like I would just want to know the location so I could pull the exact chart, but I'm pretty sure that the nodes would be at 2959 thereabouts, like right at the very end of Taurus and Scorpio / like the beginning of the transit through Taurus and Scorpio. As far as what significance I think that has, so 29 degrees in any sign is called an anaretic degree, and it's significant, just like 0 degrees is significant when you see that in one of your placements in the natal chart. Where 0 degrees represents like a new beginning with that energy, 29 is said to be kind of like an advanced study. It's like you have experience, you've likely been through this energy a lot in your past lifetimes, and this time 29 degree placements are coming forward to live out the highest expression of what that particular energy is capable of. And in this particular instance, like if you're born with your nodes at 29 degrees of a certain sign, like I would say in general, like you are something of a leader as far as like our world making that transformation that like your nodal axis is working on. So like in this case, like that baby's south node is in Scorpio and the north node is in Taurus. both at 29 degrees, I would say likely there's like a soul level proficiency in Taurus energy and deep past life things coming through, that the emotional intelligence that will eventually be developed will be extremely fine-tuned and very good, bordering on excellent emotional intelligence. But a South Node in Scorpio like manifests some drama early in life because all of that old wounding from past lives has to come up in this life and work itself out. So yeah, I think like just like any nodal axis, like just when we come during that time, like right now, the world is living through a transit of North Node through Taurus. Babies born right now, they're going to spend their whole lives dedicated to what it means to transcend a Scorpio South Node and build up their Taurus North Node. So there's already plenty of those. There's plenty of Taurus North Nodes running around on the planet already. And I would say these 29 degree nodes, though, speak to there have already been lifetimes of living through building Taurus, living through purging Scorpio, and this lifetime it will, like the lessons will be hard enough that the person who goes through the lessons will come out the other side a master of both of these things, because that's 29 degrees. Like you're here to live the highest possible expression. Typically growth happens through something of uncomfortable experiences. So I don't ever mean to sound all doom and gloom, but I do think that 29 degrees on your nodes means like basically you're slated for kind of a more intense version of whatever that nodal axis happens to be. But again, like you get out what you put into it, and through living the lessons along that path, out the other end comes a master. That brings us to the end of today's video. I just want to say thank you again to everyone who watched the Taurus North Node video, everyone who left comments. If I didn't get to yours, I do apologize. Feel free to leave more questions and comments on this video. And as we go through the life of this transit, I'll likely be making another one of these. So if there's anything you're still wondering about, don't hesitate to let me know. If you haven't already and you'd like to, please subscribe to the channel. Again, same thing, if you'd like to give this video a thumbs up, it does help boost it on YouTube, which I do very much appreciate, as I am still growing my channel, getting connected with more and more people who resonate at these frequencies of wanting to allow these energies to come in, and let's make the most of whatever opportunity they're inviting us into. So thank you so much again for listening. I'll be back soon with more videos, and until then, you take super good care of yourself, and so will I.